Hi everyone, welcome to the CMFNH Common Modeling Issues and Design Charrettes webinar. CMFNH, or the California Multifamily New Homes Program, is a public service program. My name is Allison Whitwer and I am on the program team. If you have a question, please enter it in the question section of your GoToWebinar toolbar. There's an example coming up. There we go. So that's where to go to enter your questions, and just so you know, this session is being recorded today. My colleagues and I work for TRC Energy Services, and we implement this program on behalf of PG&E. Any inquiries or correspondences with the program will be with us, but PG&E is the source of the incentives and the vision behind the program. Our speaker today is Parul Gulati, who is a research associate at TRC and is on our tech review team. She works on plan review for CMFNH, the California Advanced Homes Program, or CAP, the Roseville Advanced Homes Program, and the SMUD Smart Home Design Program.
Allison, thank you for moderating. I would like to thank everyone who took the time today to attend this webinar. Before we start, just a little bit about TRC Energy Services. We work on program implementation for PG&E. In addition to that, we contribute to Title 24 codes and standards enhancements to push for energy efficiency. We also research emerging technologies and their evaluations. We work throughout the US, but most of us on this program are located across California. The agenda for today includes a quick program overview. We'll go over the kickers and the requirement for entry into the program, and then jump right into the common modeling issues and how we're making it easier for projects to apply for the program this year, HVAC and DHW and their impact on program compliance, and finally discuss about Design Charrette. This webinar is geared towards the general public, developers, architects, energy consultants, and raters. Our focus today would be both program participation and technical guidelines for complying with program requirements. So moving on, we'll first go over the program overview. That will include the basic program description, and we will discuss also the eligibility for participation. So as Allison already mentioned, the CMFNH program is a public service program. We pay out cash incentives to above code energy savings and also offer energy design assistance to achieve deeper energy savings for multifamily low-rise and high-rise projects. The program goal is to facilitate energy efficiency design in new multifamily housing. We do that through financial incentives and design assistance. We strive to assist builders in reaching the goals of the next energy code. So for the eligibility criteria for the CMFNH program, projects must be new construction and must receive at least one major commodity from PG&E. That means either gas or electric. A small portion of our projects are all electric, and for those that are, if you're modeling it as electric gas not available, we will need a letter from the permitting authority to sign off on stating that natural gas is not available on the site. If anyone has questions on that, we will take them offline. They must, all projects must permit to 2016 Title 24 standards, and that would be permitting after January 1st, 2017. All projects must meet general energy performance requirement. For California, that is qualify for the program without using any PV offset. Again, we are an efficiency program and do not incentivize PV. All projects must be new construction, as I mentioned. We include apartments or condos. Duplexes or townhomes will fall under the California Advanced Home Program, which is the single-family homes program offered by PG&E. So going over to the program requirements, for this year's program entry criteria for low-rise multifamily is a delta ADR score of 3 or above, which is basically the difference between the EDR of standard design and the EDR of proposed design. And for high-rise, we're looking at a 10% better than the Title 24 code for the 2016 code requirement for high-rise. Under the previous code cycle, we used to seek 15%. I would like to mention again that for this year's program, we're only looking at 10% above code for high-rise. We have point kickers and cash bonuses for additional measures, and these are treated differently under the coastal and the inland climate zones. We will be going over all these kickers in greater detail in the subsequent slides. We are now accepting whole building models, which includes all space types, which is basically to reduce the burden on the energy consultant to revise the models for program purposes. So we are trying to make it easier for projects to come in. We will go over the details of it in the next few slides. Again, the 2017 program is applicable to all 2016 code permitting projects that were permitted starting January 1st, 2017. On this slide, we see the kicker summary. The table on this slide summarizes all the different kickers that the program is offering. The first two rows, as you can see, are for the 100% LED lighting, which includes all hardwired lighting, including the outdoor lighting. So the per unit incentive for that under the inland climate zone is 0.5 points for low rise, and we're offering a $15 per unit incentive for high rise. For the coastal climate zone, the point kicker is a 1 point for low rise, and for high rise, we are giving out $15 per unit for this particular kicker. For Energy Star Tier 2 appliances point kicker, all installed appliances must be Energy Star Tier 2, must install refrigerator, dishwasher, and bathroom fan, which are Energy Star certified. For the inland climate zone, we're giving an additional 0.5 points per unit, and for the coastal climate zone, it is an additional 1 point for the EDR. These point kickers can help bring the program into the program as well to bring the projects. Next, we move on to the hybrid kickers. Those include the high performance fenestration and the high performance walls kickers, under which for the high performance fenestration, all windows, doors, sliders, skylights are not included, must have a 0.24 or lower U factor. There is no SFGC requirement specifically. The incentive is $75 per unit. For high performance walls, the requirement is to meet or exceed the 2016 high performance walls requirement for, and the per unit incentive being offered is $25 per unit. Next, we move on to the 2019 code home kicker. For this particular kicker, the project must meet an entry delta EDR, and the installed PV will offset all site kWh, and this is only applicable for the low-rise projects. The incentive for this one is a $50 incentive per unit. And finally, onto the cash bonuses. We are incentivizing balanced IQ. The requirement is to meet the ASHRAE 62.2 standard requirements, and the incentive given out per unit is $25. Next is the DOE Zero Energy Ready Homes kicker. Under that, the project must be DOE Zero Energy certified, and this is applicable only for low-rise only. The dollar amount associated is $25 per unit. The Energy Star laundry facility kicker has to have all Energy Star appliances. The amount is $5 per appliance. The drain water heat recovery has to have all project installs approved drain water heater recovery devices, and there is a cap for this particular kicker. There is a maximum amount per project, which is $2,000. So we will only be able to incentivize 10 devices per project. And finally, the design charrette, which we will be discussing in greater detail towards the end of the presentation. The project must participate in CMFNH-led design charrette, and the incentive amount for this one is $5,000 per project. So we will now jump directly into the modeling issues and guidelines, which is our second topic on our agenda. We will be discussing common areas and non-res spaces and going over how to identify these spaces, their specific modeling guidelines, using some examples. So before we start discussing modeling issues, it would be useful to go over the differences in the 2016 and the 2017 program policies for building modeling. For residential space types under the 2016 policy, only the directly conditioned dwelling units needed to be modeled, while under the 2017 policy, all residential units, areas, namely dwelling units, common area spaces, everything needs to be modeled together. So, and for excuse me, for common area spaces specifically intended only for tenant use, such as recreation rooms, hallways, etc., we required earlier that all unconditioned and indirectly conditioned common area spaces must be completely removed from the model under the 2016 policy, and all the directly conditioned common spaces needed to be modeled separately, and they needed to come in as a separate model. Now, based on a lot of feedback that we received from program participants, we are now allowing all common area spaces intended for tenant use to now be included in the same model. This is being done to ease the burden of separately modeling these areas. And finally, discussing about the non-res spaces, such as those intended for commercial use and for public use. The 2016 policy directed that all such spaces be completely removed from the model. But for the current year's program, again, to simplify participation, we are allowing non-res spaces to also be included, but they need to be set to unconditioned. Moving on, common area spaces, as I mentioned, are specifically those that are intended for tenant use only. A few examples of that are laundry room, recreation area, including gymnasium, changing rooms, hallways, corridors, and stairwells, leasing offices for residential use only, janitorial closets, equipment rooms, all of these. And this list is definitely not exhaustive, but shows some of the common space types that we've been seeing. Can these be modeled in the model for the program? Yes, and they should be included in the same model as this dwelling units and be modeled as is. This particular slide shows an example of a part plan of a building. The area marked in light green, as you can see on your screen, shows residential dwelling units, while the area marked now in the darker shade of green shows the common areas for tenant use. The red dotted line on that came up on the screen marks the shared surface, which is in between the common area and the dwelling unit. In the subsequent slide, we will go over the modeling guidelines for such shared surfaces. This is a screenshot from the Energy Pro model. For surface modeling and to model the shared surface, which was marked by the dotted red line in the previous slide, model the wall as an interior surface, and the software will not register any solar gain. And step 2 would be to assign an adjacent room. This is very important because in cases where the adjacent room is not selected, the software treats the surface as adiabatic, which could affect the compliance of the project. Moving on to non-residential spaces. These are spaces that are intended for commercial or public use. A few examples are shown on the slides. These include retail, commercial offices, cafes, bike rentals, and there could be many more examples, but these are, this is not an exhaustive list again, but just shows some of the space types that we've been seeing. Can these be modeled in the energy model that needs to be submitted for the program? Yes, and they should be set to unconditioned. We will go over that in detail in the next slides.
Parul, we have a question. The question is, why would we model non-res areas as unconditioned? I think that they think it may be worse than removing it to model it as unconditioned.
The purpose for assigning an unconditioned zone to the non-res spaces is to not include it in the compliance. So it should not be affecting any HVAC or DHW or any other use, and we only want the compliance to be for the residential areas, which is why we are asking them to set it to unconditioned. And earlier we used to ask them to remove it, but it is an additional hassle. That's what we were told in the feedback. So it's just to simplify the process, but if you want to remove it, yes, that is also acceptable for the program.
Okay. It looks like feedback res may not let you model mixed low-rise, residential and non-residential in the same file. Is that what you guys have found?
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have, and I think we will get back to you regarding that specifically.
Okay. Those are all the questions for now.
Okay, great. Moving on, another example for the non-res spaces. This particular slide shows an example of a multi-use building which includes residential dwelling units, retail spaces, and unconditioned spaces. Under the 2017 program now, the whole building model can be submitted, but it is okay to remove the unconditioned spaces. But the retail spaces, if they want to be included in the model, they have to be set to unconditioned, as can be seen here on the screen. In such cases, the shared surfaces between the conditioned residential spaces and the now set to unconditioned space, which was the retail earlier, needs to be assigned as an adiabatic or party surface, which allows no heat exchange. The modeling of the surface denoted by the dotted red lines is discussed in the next slide. So as we mentioned, for all non-res spaces, it is important that the zone type be set to unconditioned if they want to be kept included in the model, the whole building model, but they can be removed if required. And we need to now choose the internal surface option for the common floor and not set any adjacent room to it, so that the surface can be treated as an adiabatic surface, which allows no heat exchange, because we don't want to account for any losses from there. Before, do we have any other questions, Allison, at this point?
No, not at this time.
Okay. So,
here's a question. What about mechanical systems that serve both common and non-res spaces?
Model it. You can model it. So this is Ritesh Nair. I'm the plan review manager for TRC. For mechanical systems serving both the space types, yes, you can model them. And if you have the same system, you can put it together in the same under the same system type in the energy model. And just regarding the surface which is being shared between the two space types, be very particular in making them as interior surface, so that you account for the heat loss or heat gain between the two surfaces. But if that doesn't answer your question, you can write it in more detail, and I'll be happy to answer that.
All right, great. There's no more questions at this time, Parul.
Great. Thanks, Allison. Moving on.
Sorry, we just got one. Will cash incentive kickers be applicable to non-res areas? For instance, 100% LED lighting to get the incentive. Does a non-res space also need to be LED?
No, it's only for tenant use.
Okay.
So any dwelling unit, any common area intended for tenant use, but none of the non-residential spaces like retails, bike rentals, leased offices, common gymnasium. If you put LED in that, we will not be incentivizing that. The reason for that is most of the IOUs, but in this case PG&E has their commercial programs which do offer LED lights incentive, maybe midstream, upstream, or customized incentive. And we don't want the customer in a situation where they double dip in the savings and get penalized later on.
Okay, great. We'll move to the next topic. The next topic that we're discussing today is high-rise HVAC systems and its impact on program compliance. We will first discuss the standard equipment by building type for low-rise and high-rise buildings, and then move to the issues that we are commonly finding and how to avoid negative savings in projects. So the standard design, the equipment in the standard design that we see for low-rise multifamily buildings, which is a PTAC system, which is a packaged terminal air conditioner that is used as in the prescriptive standard design model, and that is what your model is being compared against. For any building which is 4 or more floors, which is a high-rise multifamily building, a 4-pipe fan coil unit is the standard system. So a little more detail on what these systems are. The packaged terminal air conditioner is a DX unit with hot water natural gas boiler, and a 4-pipe fan coil unit is a central plant with terminal units with hot water and chilled water coils with separate ventilation source. In this case, fans are equipped with variable speed drives also. So very few projects that are coming in, we're seeing are installing chillers and boilers. Majority of the projects coming in this year are installing heat pumps, which are of minimum efficiency and are unable to beat the efficiencies of the standard systems. Also, a lot of the systems we are seeing are ductless heat pumps, which include ductless mini-split, multi-split, and VRF systems that are not approved, that do not have an approved compliance option yet. Therefore, these systems are defaulted to a minimum efficiency split system, which is equivalent to the design system with default duct conditions as well, giving no compliance benefits, which is why we are seeing that the projects are either not qualifying or do not have a very high compliance. We are seeing a heavy penalty on space heating and cooling. So how do we overcome this issue? How to qualify for the program? Look at alternate ways to increase efficiency of the building. If you want to install heat pumps, look for more efficient heat pumps, but this is only applicable for ducted heat pumps because the ductless are, as I mentioned, defaulted to the minimum efficiencies. Look for improvements in building envelope. These may include higher R value for wall insulation, more efficient windows, higher SHGC for colder climate zones for the windows, etc. You can also look at efficient water heating systems for buildings that have individual DHW systems for units. Look at instantaneous water heaters for individual, and if there are central system, if one system is serving multiple dwelling units, then solar fraction should be looked into. Consider renewables for your project, which also takes us to our next topic for today, which is DHW solar fraction. Do we have any questions at this point, Allison, before we move on?
Nope, not yet. Feel free to enter questions as you think of them, and we can answer any at the end as well, everyone.
Great. So we will start with discussing central DHW systems and the prescriptive requirements for different climate zones, and then briefly go over CSI and CMFNH requirements. So solar water heating is prescriptively required for water heating systems that are serving multiple dwelling units, which are central systems. Solar fraction can be defined as the total solar energy delivered to the tank in kWh divided by the total energy delivered to the tank. So it is a fraction which lies between 0 and 1. And the prescriptive requirement for such central systems, as given in Title 24 Residential Compliance Manual, is for climate zones 1 to 9, there is a prescriptive requirement of 0.2 solar fraction, while for climate zones 10 to 16, a prescriptive solar fraction of 0.35 is prescribed in the code. We have been seeing the following two scenarios. So for projects that come in through the CMFNH program, there are two possibilities. It's either you only come through CMFNH or apply for both CMFNH and CSI programs. I will go over an example to talk about solar fraction and how it needs to be modeled. Say, for example, if a project is in climate zone 5 and has a 70% solar fraction that has been designed for that project. If the project is coming through CMFNH only, then the solar fraction can be modeled as is, which is at 70%, which was what was designed for this particular project. In that case, we also require a document called the F chart, which will provide the specifications for this solar system. In another scenario where a project is applying for both CMFNH and CSI programs, we only, for CMFNH, we can only accept the model to have just the prescriptive solar fraction value, which is 20% for climate zone 5. We cannot allow the project to be modeled at 70%, and which is because the project is already applying for CSI, and 20% because we do not want the solar system to also face any penalties, because 20% is the prescriptive requirement. This is an example of an F chart which shows the detailed calculations for that particular solar system that was designed. So we do need such charts in case you're modeling the entire solar fraction and not coming through CSI. Any questions right now, Allison?
Yeah, can you share a little more about the time frame for when ductless mini splits will be rated?
So nothing is official yet, but the last I heard from EnergySoft was towards the end of this year, ductless mini split heat pumps will start getting, code compliance, or they will get into the energy models, and you can model their efficiencies as is, and you can start getting some savings benefits. But again, nothing is official yet until we hear from CEC or EnergySoft or CBEC-RES.
Okay. We have another question. Where can I find the code reference that shows when to use and not to use minimum efficiencies for ducted heat pumps, mini splits, and VRF?
So for ducted heat pumps, it's federally minimum efficiency. You can go to the Title 24 Part 6 and look for the tables for minimum efficiencies. For the ductless heat pumps, the section that we can guide you to is 2.4.1 under the Residential ACM Reference Manual. So if you go to section 2.4.1, they clearly have two lines stated where they say, unless there is an approved compliance option for ductless heat pumps, these systems are simulated as minimum efficiency split system equivalent to the standard design and with default duct conditions. And default duct conditions means they are ducted with, if an R6 is in minimum insulation value, that will be your R6, that will be your insulation value for your system. But I think we are looking things changing towards the end of this year. Fingers crossed. We'll see if we have a decision by CEC. Okay.
One more question. How should we deal with the energy factor of heat pump water heaters being limited to 0.99 for high-rise multifamily and for non-res?
So that is an issue that we have raised with EnergySoft in the past, but without getting too political or start pointing fingers at other people, as a program, we are bound to the boundaries, or to the limited to the boundaries of the software. So if the software is limiting it to 0.99, I understand that sometimes the energy factors are even higher than that, but we always limit it to 0.9 because the software will not let you go past that. So that is nothing in our hand. We have always reached out to the respective stakeholders regarding this issue, but haven't got any response from them.
Okay. Okay, those are all the questions for now.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Ritesh. Okay, moving on to the last topic of today's agenda is the design charrette. On the screen right now is a typical project timeline, and we wanted to just bring to everybody's attention that design assistance is available as part of the CMFNH program. We offer it as a bonus kicker as well. The bonus incentive is of $5,000 per project, where the CMFNH staff works with the project team to discuss their goals and to help achieve deeper savings. And the design assistance can start right at the schematic design stage. So it is always beneficial if design assistance is requested at the start of the project. We are able to influence the project in for deeper savings and to also get better incentives for the CMFNH program. So when you're looking at submitting the application, right at that point, you can ask for this option as well. We'll discuss in detail how Design Charrette works and what it entails overall. So this Design Charrettes may occur in person or via conference calls, and the idea is to discuss project goals and to help achieve deeper savings. The Design Charrette process brings together the project team members, including the developer, the architect, the mechanical engineer, energy consultant, general contractor, and the HERS rater. The team may also include representatives from other programs such as the Greenpoint rated or the NSHP. But it is also important to note over here that the $5,000 incentive shall only be awarded once the project qualifies for the program. But yeah, we're happy to work with you to assist you with any project needs. So definitely reach out to us if you want to participate in the Design Charrette process. Over to you, Allison.
Okay, so we do have another question about the Design Charrettes. Do we need to have the final energy models ready for the project if we want to participate?
I would say that's always ideal. If you have a conceptual model, at least it is easier to work with energy models to see how the compliance is being affected by the changes that we request in the project design. But we can still work with the architectural plan sets and other project details. As I mentioned, we can work right from the schematic design stage where we know that not a lot of things are finalized at that point. But yes, we can work with without the energy models or just conceptual models as well. It is, however, important that the entire project team participates though. In the previous slide, we have listed down all the project team members that we will be needing as participants for this process.
Okay. And then one last question right now. Do common spaces have to be included in the model, or is it that they can be included?
So they can be included. It's not a must. What we got the feedback from the project participants last year is just to take the common spaces out of the model and have them modeled separately for a small incentive is not cost effective for the energy consultant and the developer. So we heard the feedback. You know, we now have the policy that you can model all the common spaces and the retail spaces in the same model. But as Paru suggested before, common spaces, if it is conditioned or indirectly conditioned, can be modeled as is. Only the retail spaces have to be left unconditioned. And the whole reason is because the compliance percentage has to be only for only the residential spaces.
Okay. So at this time, there are no further questions. Thank you, everyone that submitted any comments. We can get back to you, and we're going to send an email to all attendees with the slide deck and the recording. So look forward to that, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at the info@cmfnh.com email, or you can reply to my email later this week. And thank you, Parul and Ritesh, for all of your knowledge. Bye, everyone.